Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that unbeaten up-and-comer in the featherweight division, the women's featherweight division, Ebony Jones of the United Kingdom will be returning to action late next month on the 28th opposite the ring Consulate Musanga of Kenya for what is a Commonwealth silver title, a British Commonwealth title. Ebony Jones, who got her start on the Sky Sports and Boxer side of things, those of you will remember that when Matchroom parted ways with Sky Sports and went all in with DAZN, Boxer took their place, and Boxer signed a good number of unbeaten fighters. Ebony Jones was one among them. It's where she started out. That relationship ended. That relationship between Ebony and Boxer ended sometime and some fights ago. Here and now, she's 26 years old to Consulate Musanga, who's 38. Ebony sports professional record of 5 wins with no losses, 1 draw, no recorded knockouts, not yet. Best described as an action fighter, a fast-paced fighter in one of the deeper divisions, one of the deepest divisions in all of women's boxing, the featherweight division. She's hovered at or around this weight, fluctuated in weight, but I get the sense that she's going to stay at featherweight moving forward.
She's going to stay here.
Where Amandia Serrano still reigns as WBA and WBO champion, Sky Nicholson, she's got the WBC, and very soon, the winner of Bermudez versus Menke will have the IBF. Very soon, there will be 3 champions at this weight. Three separate paths to fight for an alphabet title, provided Ebony Jones can make it through this Consulate Musanga fight. Consulate Musanga has a lot more fights and a lot more rounds in the bank, a lot more experience than Ebony Jones, but this is a developmental fight. This is a bring-along fight for Ebony. Consulate is coming off of 3 consecutive victories over what are pedestrian-level opponents. 2 girls with upside-down records and 1 girl that was making her debut. Tantamount to a professional opponent, the kind of fighter that is useful in helping to bring along other fighters, even if they themselves don't have that highest ceiling. Ebony Jones does. Ebony Jones, who was last in action in June of this year opposite the ring, Jamilet Vallejos. Ebony won a points decision. She only saw action once last year. She's already seen action once this one. This fight with Consolata will be her 2nd fight of this year, so she's managing to stay busy. Credit to Let's Go Management, who now handles the career of young Ebony Jones. What I remember of Ebony Jones, having seen her in action a few times, she's an action fighter, has a very wide base, fights out of a wide stance, likes to throw combinations, mid-range to inside, fast-paced fighter. Action. She's an action fighter, and there's still more work needs doing, more experience to amass. So, as you can imagine, it's too soon for Ebony to fight somebody like Amanda Serrano. It's too soon even for her to fight somebody like Sky Nicholson. But down the line, as she progresses, maybe she can target the winner of Bermudez versus Menke for the IBF. You figure if she does the business with Consulate Musanga, comes out relatively unscathed, maybe she can squeeze in 1 more fight before this year is out.
Maybe.
Go for 3, because she needs the rounds. She needs the experience. This is a very deep division. Ebony is just one unbeaten up-and-comer among several unbeaten up-and-comers like Karis Artingstall, Raven Chapman, Sophie Alish, Sarah Liegman,
Tiaria Brown,
Elizabeth Oshoba, Ebony Jones. It's a deep division, one of the deepest, and this is where Ebony Jones campaigns, where Ebony Jones likely aspires to become a champion so long as she keeps fighting, she keeps winning. Maybe she'll get a shot. We'll see how she makes out later on next month opposite the ring Consulate Musanga and what that leads to.
No, I hear you, bud. I hear you. I do. And the Canelo fight is a dream fight of yours. However, there's a guy right around your weight class. Similar Canelo and Benavidez. Right around your weight class. You hold 2 titles in the welterweight division, bro. 2 titles.
No, not anymore. Terrence vacated the WBC, the WBO, and the IBF. The only title he still holds at welterweight is the WBA title, but we all know after 6 years in the division, he's not moving back down.
All right. And I know you had because they're saying, well, he was supposed to fight Spence for the 2nd time. He didn't end up fighting Spence. And he had an option right there. And they saying, well, Boots had an option. Boots didn't take Boots has been calling out Bud's name for the longest.
I guess this is where I disagree with Tim. While it is true that Boots has been saying Terrence Crawford's name for a long time, his actions tell another story, that just because you say a guy's name in an interview doesn't mean you're serious about fighting him. That opportunity for Jaron Ennis came and went.
And so, me being in a position of Bud, this is what I would say. Well, okay, the young blood want it. All right, no problem. Well, he gonna take this. This is what he gets.
He did that already. He did that before he fought Errol Spence Jr. when he was a free agent and he was in limbo. Black Prime reached out to do that fight. What was Bozy talking about? What did Bozy say? Oh, well, they're loyal to Showtime. They're focused on staying loyal to Showtime, who isn't even in boxing anymore.
And if Boots take it and Bud get the big end of the stick, I mean 90%, 10%, Boots want that action.
That's the disconnect. Tim is assuming that Jaron Ennis wants that action when it's exactly the way that Terrence Crawford said it is. Exactly the way he said it is last year. Everyone, I know y'all are loving Boots right now, and that's good. I'm happy for the young guy, but chill on the I'm ducking him part. Boots had 2 opportunities to fight me, and he chose to go a different route.
There you go. Let's have it. But like you said, 14,000 seats sold in Philly, right?
Yeah.
Omaha ain't too far from there. They can have a meeting point in New York, Madison Square Garden. That it's gonna sell, dog. I'm telling you.
I like that.
Everybody's gonna come out, man, and watch this fight because Boots is the next. It's supposed to be the next coming. When Bud is out the door, when he's gone, Boots is supposed to be that guy. Boots is trying to line himself up with Bud because he know that Bud is going to be leaving the game.
No, Boots is not trying to line himself up for Bud. Boots is trying to unify the welterweight division. As Eddie Hearn stated, Jaron Ennis must unify before facing Crawford at 154. That's what Boots is doing, and that's from last month. Not last year.
And he believes that he can beat him. He truly believes, his team truly believes that they can beat him.
They believe that they can beat him? They believe that? I don't believe them. Did you happen to see when Boots and Terrence crossed paths ahead of the Madrimov fight? Not an expert in body language. I don't pretend to be. But I saw how Boots reacted. Looked a bit bashful there, a bit timid, while Terrence is relaxed, the same as he usually is. I don't buy all this pro-Boots propaganda. I don't.
And now you having everybody making excuses and saying that Boots ain't ready.
Well, that's not what I've been saying. What I've been saying is that Boots doesn't really want Terrence Crawford, and this is proof. He's trying to unify 147. Offers to other fighters have already gone out.
This and that, and you judging him by his last fight. Well, if Boots ain't ready, and then it should be a cakewalk for Crawford, right? It should be. Then Crawford should step up and face him, man. Face him. Hey, that's another paycheck. If it's that easy, step up and fight him.
I don't take anybody at their word, least of all these days. I don't take anybody at their word, and that includes fighters, because fighters are still just people after all, and people lie. People are disingenuous. Tim believes Boots. He believes that Boots and his team want that Crawford fight when all of their actions up until this point tell a different story. He didn't want Terrence before. He doesn't want him now. What he wants is to unify his division, and I'm not against that. You seen the news? Boots is currently in talks to unify titles with Brian Norman. I'm not against that, but what I think people need to do is drop this narrative about Boots and Bud. Stop pretending that Boots wants this fight.
Boots and that they reached out. Were those talks ever really tangible?
I saw some stuff about people talking about, like, some discussions with BLK Prime.
Yeah, I mean, we was trying to set up a fight with him last month because BLK people called us.
I wouldn't characterize that as a discussion. There was a discussion.
I said, yeah, we'll take him in a heartbeat, just like that, right? And they said, all right, let's sit down and talk. I said, you got to talk to my people first, though. Showtime.
Yes, sir. But the reality is, they don't have a deal with Crawford.
I never signed nothing with Showtime.
If Crawford's under contract to BLK Prime, then maybe it goes through that. But the reality is,
with no signing, no contract.
They're trying to put together a fight just like we're trying to put together a fight. So the reality is it was a very short conversation. They didn't really bring much to the table in terms of helping make the deal. So there really was no point in following up on that.
See, I'm loyal to Showtime because I'm going to tell y'all.
If there's going to be a Boots and a fight between Boots and Crawford, there are easier ways to do it without going through them.
See, I'm loyal to Showtime because I'm going to tell y'all, I never signed nothing with Showtime. They fair with me, I'm fair with them. With no signing, no contract.
guys keep pretending that because Jaron Ennis was saying Crawford's name in interviews, that means he really wanted to fight him. So that when Terrence reaches out via Black Prime, oh, well, they're more focused on staying loyal to Showtime. Who Bozy told you they don't even have a contract with. So if you didn't have a contract with them, what was stopping you from going to Black Prime? The whole time. He's calling Terrence Crawford out. You know what he was doing?
What?
He was fighting in IBF eliminators, at a time when Terrence wasn't IBF champion.
Though he supposedly wanted Terrence.
While pursuing a title that Terrence didn't have, fighting in IBF eliminators against Castillo Clayton.
Fighting in IBF eliminators against Karen Chukatsian.
Fighting in IBF eliminators against Roman Villa at a time when Terrence is not IBF champion. If Terrence were who you wanted, wouldn't you be fighting in WBO eliminators and not IBF eliminators?
I gotta say it again.
Because you guys know I've said it before, more than once. Wouldn't it have been WBO eliminators Boots were fighting in if Terrence were the guy he were after?
So, in February of 2022, when he's fighting in an IBF eliminator against Castillo Clayton, you do realize he was also ranked at number 2 via the WBO. But whose eliminator was he fighting in?
The IBFs. The IBFs. And these eliminators don't just happen on their own. The fights don't just put themselves together. You have to willfully participate in these things in order to advance. So when Boots is going the IBF route instead of the WBO route, what about that makes you think that he really wants Crawford? What, because he said so in an interview?
He was ranked at number 2 via the WBO all of 2022, the whole year.
But whose eliminators was he fighting in? The IBFs, for a belt Terrence didn't even have.
The point.
Tim is saying that Boots and Crawford should fight and that people are making excuses. Nobody's making excuses, at least I'm not. I'm saying Jaron Ennis doesn't want that fight. He didn't want it then. He doesn't want it now.
Plenty of evidence.
You say what he wants in an interview. When somebody points a mic and a camera in front of his face, his actions tell another story. They did before, they still do now.
Fighters are not above lying.
Fighters are not above being disingenuous. Fighters, after all, are still just people.
If you want to know what Boots is really focused on, what he really wants, get a gander at this next story.
Offers have gone out to Mario Barrios, Amantis Stanionis, Brian Norman. Offers have gone out.
The unified titles with these guys, offers have gone out. But has Matchroom made any offers to Terrence Crawford?
Did they make Terrence Crawford an offer?
No.
Why not?
Because of what Eddie Hearn said. Jaron Ennis must unify before facing Crawford at 154. So, what more do you need to know?
Did I miss anything? Did I leave anything out? Is there anything you're not clear on? Jaron Ennis doesn't want this fight. You guys need to stop pretending that he does.
Because he said so in an interview.
What he does want to do is unify this division, and I'm not against that, but I am against the narratives.
Eddie Hearn has made it crystal clear what he's working on for Jaron Ennis.
Matchroom are continuing their efforts to make a unification fight with Jaron Ennis and Brian Norman Jr. Ennis' promoters have targeted a date on November 9th in Philly, the 27-year-old Ennis' home city, and the location of his stoppage in July against David Avanesian, on the occasion of his first defense of the IBF welterweight title. Most recently, Brian Norman Sr., the father and trainer of the WBO champion, described an agreement for his son, 23, to be Ennis' opponent as, quote-unquote, very close. And Eddie Hearn told Boxing Scene, we want a unification for Boots. If Norman has the balls to step up and fight Boots Ennis, then fair play to him. He should be commended as someone that wants to make the fights.
If this is what they're working on, I'm not against that. I'm not.
I'm all for unification matches, but there's no need to be disingenuous at this point. There's no need to be obtuse and continue to pretend that Boots wants Crawford. You haven't seen enough?
Shift the focus.
Eddie Hearn said, Brian Norman should be commended as someone that wants to make the best fights in the sport. And I think Jaron Ennis against Norman is a brilliant fight for American boxing. To me, these are the top 2 seeds in the welterweight division. These are the 2 guys that you could give very good odds to beat anybody else at the weight. Anybody else in today's welterweight division. It's down to Jaron Ennis and Brian Norman. I would pick them both to beat Mario Barrios. I would pick them both to beat Amantis Stanionis. We made 2 offers to Top Rank for Brian Norman, both of which were rejected. I think they were really solid offers. I think they would also agree the money was strong, but we didn't hear back with a counter offer. I saw something saying we made a counter offer? That's not true. We've never received a counter offer. We've never received a number that gets it done. We just made 2 offers that were rejected, so no problem. Listen, let's keep talking. We've also made offers to a Montestanionis. We've made offers to Mario Barrios as well. So the 3 other champions, obviously, we've got the mandatory in Karen Chukatsian, but with all due respect, he's already fought him, and we don't really want that fight.
I don't think anybody really wants that fight.
We don't see the value in that fight, but it is what it is with the IBF, so it would be our preferred option to make a unification. No date confirmed, but it will be in November.
Brian Norman Sr. says they're close. They're close to a deal. Let's assume that they reach one. Let's assume that the fight actually gets made.
Who wins?
Slight edge to Jaron Ennis. If Brian Norman Jr. goes in there thinking that he's going to fight Boots the way he fought Santi Liang, mid-range to inside, throwing hooks and uppercuts up the middle, playing him close, well, that's a bad idea for Jaron Ennis. That's what Roman Villa tried to do.
He tried to play him close. He tried to put pressure on him, and you see how that worked out for Roman Villa. If Brian tries to do the same thing, he's going to lose. He's got to tweak the strategy. You need to be more boxer than brawler with Boots. More boxer like Karen Chukatsian's a boxer. Karen Chukatsian, a moving target, on his toes.
That's what bothers Boots. Movement.
If you play him too close, too often, too much in a fight, you're going to pay for it. You're going to be on the receiving end of his punches, his power. He's a boxer puncher.
Boxer punchers do very well against pressure fighters. Usually they do.
Go in there thinking you're going to pressure him like you pressured Giovanni. I don't think so. The intrigue is that these are two very big welterweights. Jaron Ennis has a lot of size for a 147-pound fighter, but so does Brian Norman.
He's big too. Strong.
So throughout the course of the fight, you do have to wonder, how will Jaron Ennis receive punches from a big, strong guy like he's a big, strong guy? We know he can be hit. We know he can be hit because David Evanesian touched him up.
Can Brian Norman chin check him?
Jaron Ennis has enough fun being the bigger guy and being the biggest puncher in the room in the vast majority of his fights. This fight,
he'd be in there with another big guy. Big guy, strong guy, young too.
stylistically, I think the fight favors Boots. Stylistically, but physically, there are still some unanswered questions about Boots, aren't there? Some unanswered questions about that fighter that maybe Brian Norman can give us the answers to.
You think Brian is really going to go through with this?
He might. He might, because he's not going to have any more luck with a Montestanionis or Mario Barrios than Boots just had. He's not going to have any more luck than he just had trying to get those guys in the ring. There ain't that much money at welterweight. Right now, the best money at welter is fighting Boots.
Top Rank tried to make a Teofimo Lopez fight for Brian, but Teofimo screwed that up.
Now, I suppose that they can get an import, some ham and egg guy from somewhere else to fight Brian Norman, but what kind of money would he make fighting a guy like that?
You'd make more money fighting Boots.
You know what they say about money. Money talks. And when money talks, people listen.
Usually they do.